And we valid valid.
Babhei.
Bohe, I'm sorry, bohe. If a chest or box was in the sea, one may not immerse anything in unless he has a hole the size of a water skin too. Rabbi Yehuda says, in the case of a large vessel, 4 tefachim. In the case of a small vessel, the greater part. If it was stuck, it was in a sack or basket, one may immerse things in it. However, it is because the water is mingled. If they were placed under a pipe, they do not qualify a mikvah, and one may even immerse them and lift them out of the water the usual way. If there is a broken earthenware vessel in a mikveh and one immersed therein utensils, they become purified from the tumah, but they are still tamei on account of the earthenware vessel. If
So
the water flows,
I think it's actually worthwhile just taking a break off here because we didn't do this yesterday. But the important thing is that the kli cheres does not become purified from a mikveh. Okay.
mm,
So, but if it is tamei, then its airspace inside it is tamei. So now what
right.
happens if you've got a kli cheres that's submerged in the mikveh or partially submerged in the mikveh, is that whatever is under the water, the mikveh purifies every second that it's there, even though it's inside the airspace of the kli cheres. But as soon as it comes out of the water, if there's still interior of the kli cheres above the water line, then whatever passes through there immediately becomes tamei again. But everything is completely submerged. Then as soon as it comes out of the mikveh, then the top layer, just that top layer of water is enough to purify whatever's coming out.
Anything in that that's in the mikveh, anything that's in it is tamei until it comes out.
Anything that's in the if it's in the water, it's tahor.
Oh, right.
But
Okay.
the airspace does not get purified with a mikveh, and as soon as it comes out, it becomes susceptible to tumah again, since it's still inside the airspace of the mikveh of the kli cheres, then it'll become tameh again.
Okay. Um, if the water flowed over it even a little, they are tahor. If a spring issues forth into an oven, and one went down and immersed himself therein, he becomes tahor, but his hands are tamei. If there was water above it, the height of the hands, then his hands are tahor. Okay. The mingling of mikvos must be as much as the size of a water skin tube, as its thickness and its hole, which is the area in which two fingers can rotate. If there is a doubt whether there was as much as a water skin tube or whether there was not as much as a water skin scoop, it is invalid because it is required by Torah law. Similarly, an olive-sized piece size of a corpse, and an olive size of a carcass, and a lentil size of keeping things, anything that settles in the opening that is the size of a water skin tube reduces it. Reb Shimon ben Gamil says any organism that it develops from the water is tahor.
In other words, doesn't reduce the width of the tube if it's inside there. Although the
Okay.
halach doesn't follow him. Okay. Ches. Metarim es hamikvaos. So he says you can purify a mikveh. Now the scenario that you've got is you've got one kosher mikveh and you've got one mikveh that was filled with mayim shuvin. Okay. Ha'elyon min ha'tachton. You can even do the upper one from the lower one, as we'll see, using a siphon. Harachok min ha'karov. Ketzad, how do you do it? Maybe silon shel cheres or shel avar. You bring a pipe that's made of earthenware or of lead. Umeniach yado tachtav ad shehu mismale mayim, and you fill it. In our times we would use rubber. I don't think they
Uh,
had rubber at the time though. Okay. So you put the so you fill up the pipe from the upper one, okay, until it's full of water, and you keep your hand underneath it, and then you move it around and put it into the lower one, and that siphon over there, even it makes a connection between the two mikvaos, and purifies even the upper one from the lower one, even though the water would flow in the opposite direction. It's nonetheless the tara can go upstream.
mhm.
Okay. Now the interesting thing is over here it says afilu kasara, and Kahati is very scant on his commentary over here. Even if the water in the pipe only touches the mikveh water with the width of a hair, which seems to contradict all the other places where we're saying that it needs to be the width of the water skin with the 2 fingers, etc. And all that he says is that I'm the Mefarshim. Look at the Mefarshim who look at who say I think various different explanations. I'm curious if ArtScroll has any explanation as to about the hair's breadth.
The hair's breadth. It says even a hairbreadth is sufficient. It says, although the pipe is a narrow bore and the stream joining the two mikvos in is as small as a handbreadth, the hashkacha is nevertheless valid. Such a slender hashkacha is effective for validating only mikvos that suffer from a rabbinic disqualification. If they are invalid on a biblical level, the hashkacha must be at least the size of a water skin tube.
Okay. So that's the distinction that he's making, is that if it's just Maim She'uvin is actually just a rabbinic disqualification. But if it was something where you had a biblical disqualification, then you need to have them connected by the full width. Is that what they're saying? Okay, interesting. I'm not sure if that stems with what we've been following up until now, what we've been saying up until now. All right. Okay, so anyway, yeah, okay, dial. If the upper one had 40 sa'ah, ubetachton and klum, and the lower one is empty, then what he can do is he can take buckets of water and pour them into the top mikveh so that it spills over. And that's perfectly okay, because as soon as you pour the Maim She'uvin into the upper mikveh, they immediately become mikveh water. So whatever spills down and falls into the lower mikveh is kosher mikveh water. Okay. Mishna Tes. Kosel shebein shnei mikvaos. You got a wall in between 2 mikvaos, shenistak l'shesi, and it's cracked. It's cracked vertically. Okay, mitztaref. That means that the 2 mikvaos are considered joined with all its implications in terms of the quantity of water in between them, and if one is mikveh and the other is Maim She'uvin. So a vertical crack, according to the Tanakama, it weakens the whole wall, and the wall is basically going to break. So we don't. So it's considered like they're already joined. But if it's horizontal and mitztaref, because you've got the weight of the wall that's closing it and is kind of supporting it, only if the connection between them is as wide as the water skin mouth. Rabbi Yehuda he says punkt verkehrt. Says it's the other way around. That's if the crack is horizontal, then it will that will weaken the wall, but vertical. How does he hold the vertical is not going to weaken it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the physics of it works in Rabbi Yehuda's world.
Says a horizontal split is treated more severely than a vertical split because the waters below the split are definitely separated from one another. And this is demonstrated by the fact that if one mikveh would be emptied out of the water and the other mikveh that is below the split would not be affected at all.
Okay. Right. Yes.
Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that a horizontal split does not require an opening the size of a sephoros, hanod, whereas a vertical one does. So as far as Rabbi Yehuda's reasoning, the author of the Tos Yom Tov states that he had heard from Rabbi Louis, the famed Maharal of Prague, that the portion of the water that is suspended above the gap is regarded as non-existent.
Okay.
Does that help at all?
Yeah. Okay. Now what happens if they break into each other? If the height of the water between the two, so let's say the top of the wall broke off, and now there's water flowing over the top as thick as a garlic peel, Al rochav kishvaferes hanod. It just has to be as wide as the shvaferes hanod, but the height of the water across can be anything basically, and the two mikvaos are considered connected. Okay. Mishna Yud, Avik Shiba Merchatz. So what you've got in this situation is you've got a bathhouse which has got a plug at the bottom, which a metal. It's a little metal key at the bottom of the cavity. Okay. Bismanshu be'emtza pasul posel uminatzad eno posel. So if it's in the middle of the mikveh, then it will cause then even if rainwater flows in, because it's a kli, it will then the water that flows in and out of it is mayim shovin. Minatzad eno posel, but if it's on the edges, it does not cause a psul. Mipnei shehu kemikveh samuch lemikveh, because then it's like a mikveh next to a mikveh. So even though the water that's in the avik was there before the water that the rainwater that fell into the actual mikveh, nonetheless it's like a mikveh kasher that was made next to a mikveh that's made from mayim shovin, and in that case, even if the kasher water is less than 40 sa'ah, it does not become pasul. So here, in our case, the kasher water is actually 40 sa'ah, so we can be machshir even the water that's in the avik. So I think what's happening is if it's in the middle, the middle is the lowest part of the bathhouse. So any water that comes in automatically comes into the avik first, and then will become mayim shovin very quickly. But if it's on the side, then the deeper part is the mikveh. So the mikveh starts filling up, and will reach the 40 sa'ah. So this is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Chachamim omrim im mekabeles hambati revi'is ad shelo yagi'u la'avik kasher. If the cavity will make a revi'is of water before the water level reaches the avik, then it's kasher, and if not, then it's pasul. So that revi'is is an interesting measure that comes through first. So if just a quarter log of water before it reaches the avik, then it's good, even if the avik is in the middle of the cavity. Reasoning according to Chachamim is because the revi'is of water of kasher water is actually the shear of kasher of a kasher mikvah min haTorah. So the 40 sa'ah is actually a shear derabanan, it turns out, which you could use that revi'is as to tovel kalim in it. Right, needles or things like that, little things that'll fit into that. And the water that's in the avik doesn't pasul the mikveh min haTorah. Okay, so but however, if it doesn't reach the revi'is, then it's already got the water that's in the mayim shovin from the avik. Okay. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Tzadok Omer, im mekabel ha'avik kol shehu pasul. He says, forget about it. If it's got any amount of water in it, whether it's wherever you put it, even if it receives the revi'is beforehand, it's still the whole mikveh is pasul, because the majority of water in the mikveh kadmu lahem hamayim hashovim. So the water that's in the mayim shovim that's in the avik was there first, and anything that comes through it will become will come through the avik, and the whole mikveh is pasul according to him. So Mistama, the halacha is going to follow the chachamim on this. Okay.
They should. If a mikveh consists 40, I'm sorry?
I've got base tests.
Base tests, all right. If one arranged jars in a cistern and they fill with water, although the cistern absorbed all of its water, it can break them. If the mikveh consists of 40 of water and mud, the Eliezer says one may immerse items in the water, but one may not immerse them in the mud. The Yeshua says in both water and mud. In what mud may one immerse? In mud over which the water flows. However, if the water was on one side, the Shiva agrees that one may immerse items in the water, but not in the mud. What type of mud were they speaking of? Mud into which a stick sticks on its own accord. Reb Meir says, so says Reb Meir. Reb Judah says, a place where a measuring stick cannot stand. Abba Eliezer ben Dole says, a place where a plumb bob stinks. Reb Eliezer says, such and such that falls through the opening of a barrel. Reb Shimon says, such that enters the tube of a water skin. Reb Eliezer ben Zadok says, such that is measured in a log. Reb Yoshi says, if there are two mikvos, neither of which contain 40 sore and a log, and a half of Shuvim fell into the other, then they became mixed, their waters are still valid because they never designated as disqualified. But if there's a mikvah that does not contain 40 sor and the 3 lugim of Shuvim fell into it and it was divided into 2, the waters remain disqualified because they have already been designated as disqualified. But Reb Shua declares them valid, for Reb Shua used to say, any mikvah not containing 40 sor into which 3 lugim of Shuvim fell, and then even one card of removed, the water is valid because it is short of 3 lugim of Shuvim. But the concurrent say is forever in its disqualified state until the full amount of the original contents flow out plus and a little more.
Okay.
Okay.
Toros.
Okay.
Obes.
Reb Meir says oil is always the beginning level of tuma, and the Kohanim say even honey, and Reb Shimon Sasori says even wine. Regarding a mass of olives which fell into an oven and the oven was kindled, if the mass contains of exactly an X volume of olives, the oven is tahor. If the mass consists of more than an X volume of olives, the oven is tummy. For as soon as the first drop of oil emerges, it's rendered tummy by an X volume of food. And if the olives are separate, even if they consist of a seya, the oven is tahor. Regarding one contaminated with corpse tumor who squeezed olives or grapes, if the olives or grapes consist of exactly an X volume, the extracted liquid is tahor, provided that it does not touch the place of the liquid. If the grapes or olives consist of more than an X volume, like juice, is tummy, as soon as the first drop emerges, is remembered tummy by the X volume of food. If it was a sab or a zab, if it was zab or a zaba, even if he squeezed only a single fruit, the fruit is tummy, for as soon as the first drop emerges, it's rendered tummy through the being carried by the zab or zava. Regarding a zav who milks a goat, the milk is tummy, for as soon as the first drop emerges, it's rendered tummy through being carried by the zav. Regarding an X volume of food that one placed in the sun and it shrank, and similarly an olive's volume of a corpse, an olive's volume of an animal carcass, or a lentil's volume of a sheretz, and an olive's volume of pickle, an olive's volume of nosa, or an olive's volume of caleb, these are tahor, and one is not liable on account for consuming pickle, nosa, or caleb. If you place them into the rain and they swell, the tummy, and one is liable on account for consuming pickle, nosa, and caleb.
Okay. Kohalos. Yud Gimel Gimel.
A hole in the door should be measured with the size of a fist. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Tarfon says the hole is measured with a square handbreadth. If the carpenter left the space at the bottom of the top, if he did not complete the door or the wind opened the door, the hole is measured with the size of a fist. There is no minimum size for a hole that is made for a stick, a board, or a lamp, according to Red Shammai, but Basil says a square handbreadth. If a hole was made to be a peephole, to speak with his friend, or for other usage, the minimum size is a square handbreadth. The following items reduce the opening to less than the handbreadth. Less than an olive-sized piece of flesh reduces the opening of the source of tumor is a quarter log of bone. A piece of bone smaller than a barley clot reduces the opening of a source of tumor, and an olive-sized piece of corpse flesh less than an olive-sized piece of corpse flesh, less than an olive-sized piece of carcass, less than a lentil-sized piece of sheretz, less than an egg-sized piece of food, grain covering the window, a thick spider web, the carcass of a kosher species of bird that was not designated for food, the carcass of a non-kosher species of bird that was designated for food but was not rendered capable of contracting tumor, or it was rendered capable of contracting tumor but it was not designated for food. Okay.
Cool.
And cooling. Hay bait. An unconsecrated, consecrated animal is outside. The first one is fit and he is exempt. And the second one incurs 40 lashes and is unfit. 6 consecrated and consecrated animals. The first is liable to charis and is unfit. The second one is fit and both incur 40 lashes. 7 consecrated and consecrated animals inside. Both are unfit. And the second one incurs 40 lashes. Consecrated and unconsecrated animals inside the first one is fit and he is exempt. The second one incurs 40 lashes and is unfit. The consecrated animals outside and inside the first one is fit and is exempt, and the second one incurs 40 lashes and is unfit. Consecrated animals and outside and inside the first one is liable to karas, and both are unfit and both incur 40 lashes. The unconsecrated animals inside and outside the first one is unfit and it's exempt, and the second one incurs 40 lashes and is fit. Consecrated animals both inside and outside. The first one is fit and he is exempt, and the second one incurs 40 lashes and is unfit. If one slaughters an animal and it's second to and it is found to be treifa, one slaughters it for idolatry, or one slaughters a cow for purification, or a bull sentenced to stoning, or half of that is to be decapitated, then Shimon exempts him, but the cage is declared him liable. If one slaughters an animal became unavailable through his hands, or if he pierces the nostrils or tears out the throat organs, he exempt with the law of it and its offering. Two persons bought a cow and its offspring, whoever bought may first may slaughter first, but if the second one preceded him, he has gained the advantage. If one slaughtered a cow and afterwards the two offerings, he incurs 80 lashes. For slaughter the two offspring, and upwards afterwards he slaughtered it, he incurs 40 lashes. If the slaughterer and then his daughter and his daughter's slaughter, and it incurs 80 lashes. If he slaughtered it and his daughter's daughter, and afterwards he slaughtered his daughter, and it incurs 40 lashes. Sumcha says in the name of Reb Shimon, they incur 80 lashes. And on 4 occasions during the year, on one who sells an animal to his fellow must inform him. I told his mother for slaughtering. I told its daughter I told his daughter for slaughtering. Then following the eve of the last day of the Sukkot festival and the eve of the first day of Pesach, the eve of Shavuos and the eve of Rosh Hashanah, and according to Rabbi Yossi Galili, also the eve of Yom Kippur in Galilee. Says Rabbi Yehuda, when he has time, but if he has time, he need not inform them. But Rabbi Yehuda agrees that if he sells his mother, the bridegroom, and the daughter to the bride, he must inform. It is known definitely that both were slaughtered on the same day. On these 4 occasions, we compel the butcher to slaughter an animal against his will. Even if the bull is worth 1,000 dinars and the purchaser has only 1 dinar's worth, we compel him to slaughter. Therefore, if he dies for the purchaser. But if the rest of the year is not so, therefore he dies and it dies for the seller. Okay. Sota.
Okay.
Sota, olive love. If she was dressed in white, he dresses her in black. If she was wearing gold ornaments, chokers, nose rings, or finger rings, they would remove them from her in order to disgrace her. He then brings an Egyptian rope and ties it above her breast. Whoever wishes to watch may come and watch, except for her male and female slaves, because she is familiar with them. And all the women are allowed to watch her, for it is stated, and all the women will have been chastised not to imitate her lewdness. According to the standard in which one behaves, so he is treated. She adorned herself for the sin. The Almighty disgraced her. She revealed himself for the sin. The Almighty revealed her sin. She has sinned with the thigh first, and then with the belly. Therefore, the thigh should be struck first in the belly, and the rest of the body does not escape either. Shimshon followed his eyes. Therefore, the Philistines pierced his eyes. And it is stated, the Philistines took hold of him and pierced his eyes. Absalom glorified in his hair. Therefore, he was hung by his hair. And inasmuch as he cohabitated with 10 concubines of his father, 10 lances were thrust into him, as it is stated. The 10 men bearers of Joab's armor circled him, and inasmuch as he stole 3 hearts, the heart of his father, the heart of the court, and the heart of Israel, as it is stated. Shmuel says, when Absalom saw the hearts of the men of Israel, therefore 3 darts were thrust into him, as it is stated. Shmuel said, and Joab took 3 darts in his hand and thrust them into Absalom's heart.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And
Goram. How is it unlike an undestimated animal? Its blood must be covered like the blood of an undesticated animal, and it may not be slaughtered on a festival day, but if you slaughtered it, its blood is not covered. If Chalif conveys carrying uncleanliness, then an undesticated animal and its uncleanness is in doubt, and one may not redeem it with its firstborn. How is it like a koi? The caleb is forbidden like the caleb of cattle, and one is liable to carrots for it. And it may not be boiled with the money to be eaten in Jerusalem, and it's subject to the shoulder, the 2 cheeks, and the maw. But Rebbe Eli exempts, so the burden of proof lies on the claimant. How is it neither like a koi animal or like cattle? It is forbidden on account of kalayim with both an undesticated animal and with cattle. If one assigns to his son with undesticated animals and his cattle, he is not assigned him to his koi. And if he said, I am a Nazarite, and this is an undesticated animal or cattle, he is a Nazarite. In other ways, he is like an undesticated animal, and cattle requires slaughtering. Like this and like that, it conveys uncertain cleanliness, and is a limb of a living being like this and like that.
And we are
Okay.
done. And I'm going to run.
Have a great day.
Good
Enjoy.
day.
Take it easy, fast. Easy, fast.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.